Hey, it's John Reed, JDOD.com. My first ever live Google Hangout. Look at this murderer's row of masochistic victims across many time zones. Hey guys,
Hey John, how's it going?
I was gonna like do this left and right thing, like I'm Johnny RP, and then I wrote your guys' names over here: Martin English, Boo Boo, and Tom Sennens. And all these guys are SAP Virtualization. I'm trying to think of the right word. Connoisseurs, freaks, addicts, rabble
Great work
rousers,
for me.
all of the above. So we'll do a shorter video and then we'll get into a longer discussion as well to satisfy the hardcore virtualization nuts out there. Guys, I want to start by asking you, the last events I've been to on SAP in the cloud, virtualization's always crammed in at the end of the day for like a half hour. Why is that? Do you think SAP doesn't care as much about virtualization? Why is it an afterthought at these events? Why do you think?
Well, from my point of view, virtualization with SAP has actually been going on an awful lot longer than a lot of people actually realise. Cloud is the hot topic at the moment with the PaaS model, the infrastructure as a service model, all that type of stuff. Virtualization at the moment is, as far as people are aware in sort of the business sense, is VMware, okay, and ESX. What a lot of people don't realize is the P-Series with IBM's been running for an awfully long time, Solaris with containers, the HP integrity models, all those types of things have been running virtualization for an awfully long time. And ultimately, virtualization works, and it's not that sexy because it works. So everybody wants to know about cloud. Everybody wants to know what that's going to do for them to save them money and things like that. They're not hugely interested in virtualization. Now, I have left Cisco with UCS and things like that slightly off to the side. That is the new kid on the block, and that is doing a lot of good stuff. But so you don't hear about IBM or Solaris when people talk about virtualization that much at these conferences in the sort of the last 18 months.
So, Martin, I want to ask you, where are we with SAP productive instances in the cloud? Can you actually, have you hacked your way into that? Can you do that? Or is that legal at this point? Like, where I know people put production, like test and dev systems in the cloud, but what about like real production systems? Where are we there?
I haven't had any personal experience with installation of them, but certainly Linux in the cloud, it's supported by SAP on SUSE Linux. I know of a couple of cases in Europe and the US where people are doing this. I don't know any local cases in Australia. We essentially don't have that much in the way of public cloud computing in Australia because the major player in all of this are people like Amazon, to a lesser degree Rackspace, and we have the issues with the data jurisdiction. I mean, people say, well, you know, if you've got a business model like Enron where you're shredding paper every, part of the business model is you shred paper every week, then maybe you've got something to worry about with the Patriot Act. But personally, I know, for example, my father was involved on the sides of some trade issues between New Zealand, the UK, and at the time the European community in the 60s and 70s. And he's mentioned several times that he was approached by what he suspected were foreign governments wanting to know what had been going on in these things. So it's sort of like, yes, there's a certain amount of government level espionage, if you like, trade espionage that goes on that makes people paranoid. I mean, I certainly wouldn't see a government department running stuff, somebody like the Department of Defence running stuff on an Amazon cloud, whatever country you're in, just because of the things like the Patriot Act. There's stuff you want to keep secret and there's stuff you want to prove is kept secret. So we don't get much of it over here. But I know, for example, Graham Robbo's got a workflow management system that runs on an ABAP system in the cloud. And it's a mobile workflow, and he runs it on the ABAP in the cloud. So it's there and it's working. I think his one actually runs on Windows because it's just something he's familiar with.
Yeah. So Tom, you've been outspoken about virtualization. Let's start with the value. Why are you passionate about virtualization in the first place?
because I think that it's certainly an area that's interesting for a basis guy like me. And I think that the products like SAP LVM, they bring something new, something like something that we can say, okay, that's something exciting for a basis administrator. And it's been a long while since we have had anything like it. That was exciting to see, and it can be interesting for sure. But I think that I agree with what Chris was saying, that the cloud is more overshadowing the virtualization on the events, because virtualization has been around for a long time, and cloud is more sexy and it's more out there and more generally known to the people, I think.
Right. So virtualization's not sexy, but you guys, both of you, Chris and Tom, you guys have made some waves around pricing. You actually had the audaciousness to suggest that LVM, SAP's new virtualization tool, should be free. Why is that?
Yeah, that's something. I don't know if Chris agrees with me. So maybe Chris can start on this one.
Okay, okay. I actually have a small difference of opinion with Tom. I think the whole concept of the Enterprise Edition with the system copy functionality is reasonable to charge for. But I think everything else that they do, the customization, the dashboards and things like that, that should all be free. You know, we pay a license fee, we pay a maintenance fee, we get a lot of tools and things like Solution Manager and things like that, the Adaptive Computing Controller, that type of thing. There isn't actually any reason why the LVM itself shouldn't be free, because it's really just an evolution of the Adaptive Computing Controller. When you get into the system copy functionality, that's brand new functionality, that's stuff that other companies pay or charge a lot of money for. People like Redwood, people like UC4, people like Cisco with some of their stuff. So why shouldn't SAP charge for that application or that functionality within the application? And as Tom said in one of his blogs, you know, it depends on your definition of reasonable. And I think there should be a reasonable charge for it. But as Tom said, it depends what reasonable actually means. So
I'd just like to touch on something there, though. The whole idea that you've got things like UCC4 and Redwood and even the VM tools. A lot of the places I'm working at now, they just don't see they just wouldn't see the value in having yet another virtualization management tool. They've already got the VM tools or the AIX tools or whatever there in place. They would use those rather than an SAP tool, because the guys responsible for the infrastructure excuse me, the guys responsible for the infrastructure are already familiar with an existing set of tools.
But there's something that LVM does that those tools don't do, and that is around the startup and shutdown sequences and things like that. That for me is something. And Tom, you manage a large landscape. You know, the ability to turn around and say, I want to bring down 9 application servers and a central instance with the click of one button, as opposed to having to log into each of them, or even scheduling that shutdown. That in itself is worth an awful lot to a basis administrator who on a Saturday morning has to do a kernel upgrade or something. Yep. You know, the ability to say, 10 o'clock, I'm going to bring all the systems down, script a file copy, bring the systems back up again, and that means he can roll over, check his email, yes, it's done, thank you very much, roll it back over, and go back to sleep and have a nice lie-in rather than having to get up early.
All right, Tom, let's hear the rebuttal.
Yeah. So I'm not really saying that the Enterprise Edition should be free, to be clear. What I am saying is that you should be able to bring a case to your customer that you can reduce their TCO. And there you touch the things that Martin refers to, that customers already have tools in place, and not all the customers have the same kind of tools in place. We have customers that have already automated their refreshes or system copies, for example, So in that case, it's harder to bring a case for the sub LVM and get the pricing right so they can actually achieve that. But and they have to get credit for this. SAP is working. They are looking at how they can make that case. So the team behind the tool is really into listening to customers to improve the tool, listening to other people who are using it. They want to bring the case that small customers can also have it in place. And I think that's an important point.
Hey, Chris, you made the point against Tom's argument that ACC comes with SAP already, but that's being sunsetted, right? So if customers are used to having ACC as part of their licensed environment, aren't they going to be frustrated to have to pay for the LVM, or how does this work?
Well, the very, very basic edition, which is the evolution of the ACC, is free, but it's not got customizable dashboards. Okay, in order to get the customizable dashboards, that then starts to incur a charge, and then when you actually move into the system refresh, that incurs a further charge. The interesting point is where Redwood and UC4 and other people charge per system. Okay, so source and target in terms of the licensing. SAP will only charge you for the source. So say you license your production system and you have a QAS and a pre-prod, which are both copies of production. You only pay the license fee on the production. As far as I'm aware, that may change. We think will still be decided after that, but everything that I'm hearing is that it'll be licensed on the source system, not the target system, which is a lot better than a lot of other people do, which is where the case for reasonable as opposed to the other, unreasonable comes in. But the ACC functionality in LVM will be free, just not particularly customizable in terms of dashboards and things like that, which is where I think a lot of this LVM is going to really hit home and be a lot better than ACC.
Okay, I want to wrap up our shorter video, but I'd like to end with each of you guys giving me one thing you would advise SAP customers in terms of making the most out of virtualization. Give me like 30 seconds on that, each one of you.
Okay, I'll go first. I think in terms of virtualization, it's ultimately hardware vendors are selling software to control virtualization because they're not making the margin on the boxes anymore, and people are able to do more on the boxes because the boxes are more powerful. So for me, it would be get the best deal that you can out of your hardware vendor in terms of the software that manages that infrastructure. Too many people aren't realizing, they think they're getting this much bigger, more powerful box and they can do more with it, and then they get hit with a software license fee that just kills any reduction in TCO that they have.
Martin, can you do 30 seconds? Is it possible?
Standard SAP consultant's answer, it depends. A large organisation, Australia Post, for example, with 90 or 120 or whatever it is, SAP instances, something like LVM is a no-brainer. For somebody who has, say, 18 AIX petitions, but they only have 3 SAP petitions, they've already got the management tools. Basically, what you do depends exactly on what you've got. You've got to have a look at your own TCO examples.
Tom?
Yeah, I think they both raised good points. I think it's really up to the customer to get enough value out of the tool and be careful what you're buying. So there are a lot of features in a lot of these tools and VMs and whatever. But if you are only going to use 25%, then you have to be sure that you can make the case for having it in place. And you can have a lot of benefit of having it in place as well. So be careful and look into it is what I would say.
Okay, we'll give the viewers a quick wave. That's round one. Now, for those virtualization eggheads out there, we're gonna plow on a little bit and dig a little bit deeper into some of this stuff. There's some events coming up this spring. I know some of you guys are presenting. Virtualization Week's coming up. Maybe one or more of you is going to try to get there. What are we going to try to learn this spring? What's going on?
For me, for me, it's basically working out the value of these things for the various size customers. At what level, as I said before, you've got the situation where somebody's already got virtualization or hybrid cloud management tools in place for for non-SAP infrastructure. Do they have enough SAP infrastructure as well to justify using things like ACC or LVM? I mean, how widely used is ACC anyway? I certainly don't think it's very widely used down here.
No, it's not. It's not really massively used even in Europe. It wasn't until version 7.2 and 7.3 that it actually became usable and decent.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
SAP claims there are a lot of ramp-up customers for SAP LVM, but I don't have the number, so I'm still wondering how many it would be.
And it went into ramp-up late last year, right? LVM?
Yeah, but I just clicked download the files, I think on Friday or something, for one of my customers. So I think it's still early stage, but normally it should come out next year somewhere. And the end of maintenance is already end of 2013, if I'm correct. So
it might be worth waiting.
Yeah, it means I will have to be fast to innovate and bring a new version out. So I'm curious to see what will happen.
yeah.
Get it while it's hot. Virtualization.
Yeah. Exactly. I may have to have a chat with you, Tom, and see what it looks like. For me this year, actually, it's finally trying to get SAP to do something with Project Titanium. It has been that's the SAP Cloud Controller that they keep dangling in front of us, teasing us and tempting us with. I actually want to see it either go into. It's been in alpha for about 18 months now. I want to see. I haven't seen a new version of it in about 6 months. I want to see a new version. I want to see a date for it to go into ramp up, because it's just a no-brainer. I did a blog post about medium to long-term management of Amazon instances and how Amazon they just want you to run stuff 24/7, and people do it, and your TCO in 6 months goes out the window. So the fact that SAP haven't shown Project Titanium the light of day to customers and things like that beyond slideware or demonstrations at TechEd and things is really, really disappointing.
For those who aren't familiar, what do you think the value will be for customers there? You kind of described it, but just to be clear about the tool.
So the cloud controller itself is a layer of abstraction over and above what the Amazon Management Console actually does. So you can have users logging in. You can define your templates within the cloud controller. You can log in as say a trainer and say, I want to start a training instance, and you can get access to the catalog and say, I want to start that, and you can specify how long you want it to run for, and so on and so forth. In the current way that has to work without that layer of abstraction, you actually have to be able to know the Amazon console, which isn't difficult, but you don't want to be giving everybody access to the Amazon console. Through the cloud controller, you can also define a more granular layer of security, because it's slightly more abstracted. So that's really what the cloud controller is there to do. And as I said, I haven't seen a version in about 6 months now, and I understand it has moved on a reasonable amount with more reporting and stuff coming out of it as well. So it actually it will be quite an interesting piece of technology, and it's also designed to bolt on to SAP LVM, which will give you your hybrid, so it'll give you your on-premise virtualization, and it'll give you your cloud out there and management.
Yeah, that's it's not even conceptually anyway. It's not even a difficult thing to do.
No, well, we did it at Innocat.
Yeah. Though we ended up talking more about it than actually demonstrating anything.
Yeah, but we'll not go into that.
But the point is, though, the point is you need an SAP written one to make sure that you get a clean, tidy interface into LVM so that you can get the benefit of the hybrid clouds.
Exactly.
I mean, if we just write one out of Ruby or Perl or whatever, then God knows how you get it to talk to LVM.
That's what I'm doing at the moment. Don't tell anybody. I want to sell it back to SAP.
Actually, it's worthwhile. It's a worthwhile project doing for learning language. But don't forget to have a look. There's plenty of them there already listed on the Amazon website.
Well, it is something that's actually interesting in the fact that the whole thing that we did at TechEd with the analytics, and basically, John and Tom, what we did was, the problem is that people start things and don't turn them off. People create volumes and don't delete them. So what we did was we set up a small project where we could actually define the life of these things. So I have actually done a little bit of exploration, and there are about 3 or 4 vendors now at the moment that are actually in their own beta web service that can actually do this. But the thing about it is that when you're doing this in small instances, it actually makes sense. But when you actually scale this out to maybe 20 individual Amazon servers, the TCO calculations actually start to disappear. You're nearly better actually running a small server yourself and actually writing Ruby or Perl scripts that do all your management for you, and use cron as well. So the whole idea of using web services to manage your the cloud instance, on small stuff it works really, really well. Like I'm paying, I think about $30, no, about $90 a month to manage 11 servers. If I scale out much beyond that, it's going to be more cost effective for me to create a small Unix box on the free usage tier and just use that.
Yeah, because you're getting to the stage of the actual manual cost, the manual labour involved in turning the thing off on a regular basis to make sure it's not running 24/7.
Oh, it doesn't need to be manual. It doesn't need to be manual. I can create a small.
But that's what I mean. Going from using the AWS to using a managed system.
Yeah.
Tom, something that's been on my mind is that you wrote a blog that made a few waves, and in fact I think you even changed your blog title at one point.
Yeah, I did.
So what's that like, as far as, did you piss some people off, and was that ultimately productive? Like, did you turn it into a good dialogue with SAP, or what happened there?
Yeah, it's quite a story actually, because the blog came out of something that was miscommunicated towards me, and in the end towards my customer, and that kind of pissed me off, and then I decided to write the blog.
To say the least, Tom, to say the least.
But I can very clearly say that SAP is doing an effort to talk to the customers and make it happen. I don't just know yet in which way or how they will do that, but they are doing an effort to make it better, or to make a case for small customers as well. But the blog title, changing the blog title is actually an effect, because apparently some well-respected people within SAP, which have high ranks or something like that, started calling the team behind the tool, and started asking questions if the functionality was broken, which was totally not the case, and is not what my title is about. The title was not about functionality broken. The title was about, is the price model going to be an issue for the Enterprise Edition? And because I didn't want to give the impression that the tool is broken or anything like that, I changed the blog title, because they should read the content and not just the title. So that's really the reason behind it. Well, but I don't know what it cost at SAP, what it brought at the SAP side.
Well, congratulations on getting in the hot water. We've all been there. It's always an exciting feeling to get a phone call from some important person. But I wanted to.
Well, some of it's even better when they think they're important and you have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
Well, is this not an example of new SAP? You know, new SAP that are actually listening to us?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, but before they just would have sat and seized and put a black mark against your account. Your account manager wouldn't answer your phone calls anymore. Now you get a phone call from you know, Jonathan Becker or you know, Alan Bannon or guys like that or Jeff, you know. So I don't know. I think, you know, the fact that you actually got the engagement, the fact that SAP are trying really does show, you know, as in Thornster's words, you know, it's new SAP. So it is. So it's good to see. It is good.
I actually met Sanjay Kulkarni and Alan Bannon at SAP at Madrid.
Yeah.
Sanjay mailed me to see if I was around somewhere, and I just said, "Find the red T-shirt, and then you find me." And he did. And we had a good talk on SAP LVM, and then he said, "Wait," and he got Alan Bannon as well, and then I also talked with him. I also watched the interviews that you guys did.
That was a lot of fun. I like Alan a lot. He's a good guy, actually. He's a good guy.
But you had a really important point, I think, Tom, you were getting at, which was about whether LVM is going to really work out for SMEs from a pricing scale, right? That was one of your big points. Was okay, large enterprise I can see, but how is this going to price well and affordably for the small enterprise customer? Isn't that the core of your argument there?
Yeah, that's right. Because I also saw the blog that Tammy Paulus sent on SDN, which is very interesting with the presentation slides from SAP. And in there you have one of the slides says that they should do things with like Lego blocks and build modular products. And that's exactly what could be interesting for SAP LVM. Give the customer modular units that he can buy, and you can buy extra functionality. I mean, SAP LVM has a lot of functionality in there. There are things like scaling out your system, scaling it back in. But if you're a small customer, and you know you're not going to scale out your system, does it make sense? I mean, you're not going to use the functionality, but in the end you pay for it because they say, okay, you get this, this, and this, and it has to cost something, and you get a reduction in TCO, but it's only the case if you use everything. If you only use a small part or some parts. And
it's interesting because you could nearly actually go a shared services model with this. Like Capgemini or CSC, that use data center hosting and things like that. You know, quite often they will host a lot of the administration stuff on a solution manager instance that they keep centralized, which will also go with the customer's solution manager as well. There's a large argument probably coming from SAP that would say, well, you know, the license for customers like that, where they would actually, you know, HP or IBM or Capgemini or CSC would actually just turn around and say, well, we'll implement the LVM and we'll do the controlling for you, and if you want to log in, then we'll create a login for you and use the granular controls to give you the access. I think Tom's actually quite right in the fact that it is the SMEs that are really going to struggle with this. So it is. So we would like to.
And relatively speaking, it goes back full circle. Then the SMEs are the sort of guys who are going to find it easy to walk out on the street and grab a Microsoft certified guy who knows a little bit about VM and can do all this. Can do this with VM. Might take them a little bit longer because the tools aren't as SAP specific. Yeah. But then again, the guy's going to be cheaper.
Yeah. And we all like cheaper guys.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah.
Present company excluded, of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, I'm not inexpensive, but I might be cheap.
There was one other topic on my mind. I was curious, do you guys think that managing hybrid landscapes like this is a big skills transition for the basis person, or is it pretty simple to just add this to your skill set?
If you're talking infrastructure as a service, as a hybrid model, then it's a no-brainer. It should be really, really easy. If you're talking about PaaS as a hybrid model, there's going to be an awful lot more. Tom and I have discussed this around having to understand programming languages and code and things like that there to actually dig into issues. You know, the whole idea that if you're running an on-premise and then you're running a PaaS which is connected through JSON or Java and things like that, it really the basis guys really are going to have to ramp up and not just be hardcore infrastructure. Basis team are going to have to say, I need to understand how data flows. I think that's going to be a huge transition for an awful lot of people.
Yeah, it's gonna be broken. I don't know how to fix it, so it must be a basis problem, like printers. Yeah.
I think it will definitely be challenging for many people because there's also the fact that a lot is moving, a lot of products are maturing, new products come, new types of products come, and if you start to mix all of those, then it's also the landscape is going broader and broader. You have many more products, so you almost have to know something about all of those products as well to support them. So.
Yeah, when I started, and probably the same for Boo Boo and maybe even Tom, though he's a spring chicken compared to us. You're
a fall chicken.
As my thing says on SCN, I started with R3 sometime last century. But yeah, R3, then the 2.2 and 3.1 days, it was R3, and you were either a Windows person or a Unix person. Now you've got to know a bit about comms, you've got to know a bit about the business management, you've got to know stuff about the virtualization right down to the guts of the hardware. Yeah, it is becoming deeper and deeper, and as Tom said, broader and broader. I mean, is the issue is the response time down to a bad running program, a bad network line, what? Or is it just latency because you're on a server on the other side of the world?
Hold on a second, but this feeds into a much broader conversation just about basic skills and things like that there. But in my experience, being on the site and on the premise, you're absolutely right. That broad range of skills is absolutely required. But if you're working in a remote location to where you are, which an awful lot of support people do tend to be, that actually causes a very narrow focus, which is pure application. And when something sits slightly outside, either on a contextual basis or on a knowledge basis, it's very, very quickly over the fence.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
And that it can be a little bit frustrating and things like that there. If you have the right processes, it actually doesn't actually become that much of an issue. It just becomes a handoff between team to team. But certainly what you're describing there is very definitely an on-site, in front of the customer
view of the world,
view of the world.
Well, from my days at CSC, what I actually found more annoying was where you had a pretty good idea of what the problem was, you knew what to do, but you had to go to through the process of handing it off to someone else.
Yeah.
Because they were the guys who had the authorization or the passwords to the bits to fix it. Okay. And which meant even just the handover stuff, it meant there was an extra hour or two involved in getting the answer back to the customer.
But this is why I love cloud. I don't have to. You see the storage guy? I am the storage guy.
Yes,
guy? I am the network guy. Okay, the OS guy? Hello, that's me. So all that stuff, I don't have to go anywhere else. I don't have to deal with anybody else. I don't have to raise a change control to do something because, do you want to know something? It's my system and it's non-productive because SAP won't support it in production yet. So pretty much what I like.
Well, they will, but perhaps your customer isn't happy enough yet. But I understand that. But remember, if you're doing this for a bunch of developers, then you start having to put in those processes because, in effect, you've got customers, even if they are the guys round the corner working for the same paymaster as you, for want of a better word.
Yeah, but they all know that as a basis.
They're only developers.
They all know as a basis person, you can make their life a lot more miserable than making it your life.
So what you guys are basically saying is if a manager comes into your office and asks, "How is my system's elasticity?" you don't want to have a stupid look on your face. You want to have an answer. That's what it comes down to.
Oh, God.
It might be a stupid answer. It might have nothing to do with reality, but it's got to be believable.
Hey, Tom, I got to ask you, when you started campaigning for more SAP admin community on SCN and more, was this type of ridiculous discussion what you had in mind?
Not really, but I'm having fun.
So how is that going? Have you developed some traction and interest around admins? Because it does seem like the SCN by default ends up in developer talk a lot of the time.
I think we have a better balance, I would say, and there is some discussion ongoing. And I think one of the more important things is that the people who are doing bases, they find each other and they connect and they discuss things. So that's maybe the most important point in that.
Part of our job is to be unsexy and boring, so that all the developers can do all the exciting things. So yeah, we don't have anything to write about because we don't screw up as much as they do. Sorry, we hide it better when we do.
So essentially, you're boasting about your humility.
Yes,
that's
it's hard to be humble when you're marketing.
I see. So is the SAP admin hashtag still in use for this purpose of pimping baseless content on Twitter and stuff?
Yeah, it's still in use, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I still chase it up. I haven't actually contributed anything for a while, but actually my most valuable thing I did recently, I actually I put up on the SCN beta system. I'm not one for writing up a blah blah blog post on those sort of things, so I put up a little thing about SQL Server, but I'll have to copy it and put it up again on the real SCN.
Okay, well, I think we've reached a good stopping point for our taping. I'm pretty pleased by the fact that we haven't had anyone completely crash out. Chris has some.
Oh, here we go. We got some advertising.
Oh, there we go. SAP ad.
Nice
one. Nice. I should have bought this expensive whiteboard. I could have just scribbled on paper. So, all right. So we have some activities coming up. What's coming up this spring? There's Virtualization Week in April. Are any of you guys going to try to go to that, or?
I'm trying. Yeah.
My problem is too many things. There's the decom stuff, which I'm sort of like a less than 50-50 chance of getting to. I want to go to the Palo Alto one because that's going to be having stuff on virtualization and cloud and so on. But that's in the middle of March, and at the end of March is the Mastering SAP Technologies Conference in Sydney. Organised by, amongst other people, Graham Robertson, and I've had a bit to do with that on the organising committee. I didn't see my presentation abstract come through. I didn't get to vote on whether it was accepted or not, but they did anyway, so it's obviously going to be a great conference. And then there's the Virtualization Week. So the only one I'm definitely going to is the Mastering SAP one, but I'm sort of 50-50 as to which one, if either, of the other two I'll be going to.
Gotcha. What about you guys?
Tom, what about you?
I'm gonna try to go to Palo Alto, but I'm not sure if it will work out or not. But
is that the Virtualization Week or the?
Yeah, the Virtualization Week. So it's the second week of April that it's going to be, and I think that's for me the most interesting one to go to. So I will try to go there. If I get the budget, of course, and or if SAP gets me there, that's also an option somehow. But I'll have to see to what extent maybe I can use SAP LVM and maybe talk about it, or I don't know. I have to see first. So.
Yeah. Invite me to Palo Alto, and I'll tell you what I really think.
So for me, I've got the Inside Track out in Palo Alto, which is in late February. I think it's the 26th, 27th, I think. And then there's the the virtualization and cloud week in early April. So I'm going to try and make it out to that. I know I'm presenting well. I know I've submitted, and I think it's been accepted for the inside track. So that'll be a remote presentation, and then I'm going to try and submit an abstract for the landscape and virtualization week. So I'm going to have to write 2 different presentations on roughly the same subject. Hopefully get them submitted. I think it's a bit cheap to do the same one twice, but you know, we'll see.
To mostly the same audience.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw via Twitter, James Governor's trying to chase you up to go along to Monk Chips.
Oh no, I'm going. I'm going to Monkey Grass. So yeah,
Monkey Grass, that's it.
It was Thornster we were trying to get, because I did say that I would do one favor for him, and then we got into mud wrestling and all the rest of it. I'm just waiting for somebody to say we're going to have to mud wrestle. I'm hoping not. Please don't. John, that's not an invitation. Do not.
Yeah.
No. No.
All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good stopping point for this round. And for the viewers that were hoping to get more close-ups of people besides Chris on my end, I apologize. For some reason, Google Plus thinks Chris is the best looking of all of us, so he got the most face time.
It is only beta. It is only beta.
For all you boo-boo fanboys and fangirls, I'm sure this was a real treat. So, guys, wave at the camera again for the second. Thank you for that. And let's go ahead and open the Hangout up and see if there's anyone else that wants to come in for a few minutes, and then we'll do a final wrap.